I ain't one of you,
Not by name,
began Sarah.
but you are by blood.
How? Sarah didn't seem interested in going into detail. She stared at me a moment through her cloudy old eyes, and then reluctantly explained. She told me that long ago, when she was still young, she had a sister named Charlotte who had gotten it in her head that she wanted off the mountain. She wasn't like the rest of the Mondays. She lacked the darkness they had in them. In 1888, Charlotte gave birth to a daughter. It wasn't a planned pregnancy on account that she wasn't married, but she loved the child regardless. This baby wasn't the product of incest either. Charlotte wasn't into that kind of thing. Now, I'd heard stories of the Monday sister that got killed by a jealous lover, but what I'd come to find out from Sarah is a truth much more disturbing. In 1889, Charlotte decided she had had enough. She was going to take her daughter and flee the mountain. But there's a catch. Mondays still have to pay the fee to leave. It's the only time the Mondays ever have to pay a fee. Because of their close relationship with the mayor, they are given special treatment, but they are still bound to their promise to serve. For a Monday, the price to leave is 2 of their children, no exceptions. Charlotte chose not to obey that command, and as a result, it was not a jealous lover that murdered her. It was her siblings. Their loyalty to the mayor superseded whatever they had for their sister. The father of Charlotte's child wasn't present that first year of her life. Maybe he was frightened by the fact that his child was a Monday, but whatever the case, he had a change of heart after Charlotte's death. He'd gone up to the Monday house one day with an orphan, a trade, the orphan for his daughter. Now the Mondays weren't planning on harming Charlotte's child. After all, Monday blood is protected, assuming you obey the rules. But they recognize that the father has a right to his child. They accepted the trade. I ain't sure what happened to the orphan. Fast forward 20 years, and Charlotte's daughter has a child of her own, a boy. They live a mostly quiet life, and in 1935, the boy becomes a father. His child is my grandfather. Almost 30 years later, my mother was born. Does my mom know? I asked. Sarah began walking away.
You'll have to ask her.
She was headed back towards the way we came in, so I went ahead and followed her. We passed cage after cage, body after body. It seemed the state of mind of these prisoners was so bad, they'd even been killing each other. My dad's coming with me, I hollered up ahead to Sarah. She did not respond. You hear me? I said. I paused. We were near the cage my dad had been locked in. He was no longer in it. My stomach dropped. I quickly ran to the wagon near the stone table I'd seen the prisoners get beheaded earlier. His executioners were still there. I looked at the pile of naked, headless corpses, my heart racing. Please don't be in there, I thought. Please. My dad had gotten a tattoo when I was a kid. It was a small one on his upper arm. Most people didn't know he had it. It was our last name. We often joked that he got it in case he forgot who he was. One of them bodies had that tattoo. There was no mistaking who it was. The animals had cut off his head and thrown him in the wagon with the others, ready to be served up as a meal to the Wendigo. I'd known that what my dad slipped in my pocket earlier was a knife. I could tell by the size and weight. He'd hid it in his boot before we left the house. It wasn't much, just a regular old pocket knife. But it was enough. I didn't feel the unshackled fingernails digging into my neck as I stabbed him repeatedly. I didn't feel my finger break as he tried to push my hand away. All I felt was rage. blinding rage. They must have known that was a Monday, because ain't one of them tried to pick up that axe they'd been cutting heads off with. I guess because of who I was, they didn't want to kill me. But I didn't care. They'd killed the man I loved most in this world, and that was unforgivable. Stabbings ain't like you see in the movies. It ain't quick and easy. What happens is they drain out. They bleed to death. When I finished with one, I turned for the other. He'd been the Reaper to so many in here. He was likely just another child taken long ago. But he was a man now. He'd grown up in hell. Maybe he was pure once. A light that's been snuffed out. But now, he was just another monster. He'd hesitated, almost made a run for it. But I caught him and did him in like the other. The two unshackled weren't dead when I walked over to the wagon and lifted up my dad's body. One of them stared with wide, fearful eyes, his chest rising and falling. He was growing paler, and I reckon he didn't have long until he bled out. I lifted my dad's body from the pile and set him down. And then I grabbed the dying unshackled and dragged him to the wagon and dumped him in. The other one gripped my wrist as I dragged him. He was too weak to do anything at that point. I pulled his hands off me and dropped him onto the pile. The Wendigo can eat them fuckers. A key had fallen out of the pocket of one. I reached down and picked it up. I stumbled to the cage and unlocked it. "Move," I said to the prisoners. They parted, and I saw my dad's head sitting in the dirt. I began to feel pain, not from the injuries I'd gotten in the fight, but in my chest. A broken heart, I suppose. My arms trembled as I picked up his head. I turned to leave, and huddled by the gate were the Keller boys. They'd been through a lot. I could see it on their faces. Hell, I'm sure they saw it on mine too. They didn't speak. Maybe I looked like another nightmare at that moment. I walked out that gate with my teeth gritted. The shackled prisoner that'd been strapping people down rattled on over and locked the cage back up. Still loyal, even though he was chained. Sarah never said anything throughout. Never sent Bubba or anyone else to stop me. She just stood there, without emotion. "He ain't staying down here," I said. Sarah told Bubba to grab the body. "No!" I pushed Bubba out of the way. "You don't touch him." Dad's backpack was nearby, and I placed his head inside. I put his body over my shoulder, and I carried all of him as I climbed back to the surface. It wasn't easy. It took quite a bit longer going up than it did coming down. But at least he ain't in that hell anymore. I finished burying him after sunrise. One day I'll find him a better place to rest. A place where clear skies and singing birds ain't so misleading. I went inside and washed the blood off my face. And the cuts on my face and neck stung. My finger was broken, and I did what I could to fix it. I took a moment to catch my breath. Then I called my mom.